I'm Michael Bennett, 45 years old, a mid-level director at Nexlify, an artificial intelligence tech company in Seattle. 18 years of dedication. I once saved the company from the brink of bankruptcy with $1 million contract. But the name Michael Bennett has never been etched on any wall of honor. Tonight, at Nexlify's 15th anniversary gala, my boss, Nathan Reynolds, handed me a glass of champagne, his smile promising reconciliation. But I saw him whisper to the bartender. I saw the second glass. He wanted me to lose control, to weaken, to vanish. So I quietly swapped that glass with his assistants, Lucas Hayes. And Nathan's perfect night began to crumble. They erased my name from the speaker list, from team photos, from the company's history. But that glass was his final mistake. Because when silence fails, the truth has a way of roaring back. The message came one evening through Nexlify's internal chat group. Nathan sent a notice titled, "A Night to Remember." I opened the attachment, an electronic invitation, exquisitely designed with gold font on a blush pink background. "Join us to celebrate 15 years of Nexlify," it read. I scanned the organizing committee list, hosted by Nexlify's leadership team and strategic partners. My name was nowhere to be found, not in the committee, not in the RSVP section, nowhere. I stared at the screen longer than necessary, my chest tightening, as if squeezed by an invisible hand. My name wasn't forgotten. It was deliberately erased. A colleague commented in the chat with a heart emoji. "Can't wait to see everyone in their fancy suits." My heart stung. Everyone probably didn't include me. But I typed, "I'll be there." Not because I wanted to, but because that's dignity, showing up where you're unwelcome, walking in with your head held high.
Before diving into the story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the latest video.
I booked my own hotel room, drove myself to the Cascade Hotel in downtown Seattle. No one asked if I needed a +1. The city looked like it was staged for Instagram, meticulously tended hydrangea beds, pristine sidewalks, doormen with professional smiles. But nothing was more perfect than the gala space at the Cascade. White marble columns, valet service, and soft jazz from a live band near the entrance. I stepped out of my rented car, wearing a charcoal gray suit, not flashy, but not invisible either. Two young staff members posed for photos by the hydrangeas, one whispering, "Is he a waiter?" I didn't flinch, just kept walking. But the comment was a small scratch on my pride. Inside, the room sparkled. Nathan's favorite colors, blush pink, ivory, pale gold, blanketed the space like a luxury ad. Servers glided by with trays of champagne, each glass adorned with a few floating raspberries. A string quartet played gentle, expensive melodies. I paused near the seating chart, my fingers tracing the calligraphed names. Nathan's, Lucas Hayes, Helen Parker's, a board member, were all carefully written for the main table. I wasn't there. Then I saw it. A metal chair, unpadded, placed near the swinging door to the kitchen. On it was a cheap paper napkin, folded into an uneven triangle. Beside it, a small card simply read Michael. No last name, no title, no warmth. I stood there a moment, watching a server slip through with a tray of shrimp cocktails. The kitchen door creaked, wafting heat and the smell of garlic. This wasn't a mistake. I sat down, crossed my legs, gave a faint smile, and took a slow breath. 20 minutes passed. The music shifted to a livelier tune. Conversations around me buzzed, like bees avoiding an unwanted flower. Then Nathan appeared, in a navy blue suit, hair slicked back, his smile practiced to perfection. He approached, one hand holding a champagne glass. "You made it, Michael," he said, his voice neither warm nor cold. "Wouldn't miss it," I replied, my tone steady. He leaned in, grazing my cheek with an air kiss, then vanished into the laughing crowd. Lucas Hayes, Nathan's 32-year-old assistant, followed, pausing briefly. "Hey Michael," he said, not meeting my eyes, his expensive cologne wafting before he gave me a half-hearted hug. "Hope you found your seat." "I did," I said softly. "Exactly where I expected." He smiled as if he hadn't heard, then walked away. I let my eyes scan the room. Every table had elegant floral arrangements, peonies, floating candles, napkins, folded into proud orchids. My table was different. The napkin was folded into a small, simple iris, slightly flawed. I recalled an old saying from an art class. Irises mean goodbye, don't they? I lifted the napkin, my fingers brushing the cheap fabric. Goodbye. Maybe that's what Nathan had wanted for a long time. I ate nothing, only sipped water from the lone glass on my table. No one joined me. A little girl, probably a guest's granddaughter, peeked at me from behind her father's leg. I smiled, but she asked, "Dad, why's that man sitting alone?" Her father fumbled, whispering, "Probably a colleague, sweetie." The girl wrinkled her nose. Then I saw Nathan, at the bar's corner, saying something to the bartender, his voice low, his posture careful. He held 2 champagne glasses, handed one to a staff member, then kept the other, tapping its rim twice. The bartender nodded. Nathan stood there, at the bar's edge, his posture casual, but I knew his tells. The tilt of his head, the way his lips pursed when hiding something. He caught my eye, his smile widening, raising the champagne glass. "Special blend for you," he said sweetly, placing it in my hand like a peace offering. The glass was cold, its rim garnished with a thin lemon slice. Nathan held it a second longer than needed, his eyes betraying something. I smiled back, as practiced as he was. "Thanks," I said, my fingers curling lightly around the glass, as if it were just any drink, as if this were just any night. I sat there, in the gala's dim glow at the Cascade Hotel, the chilled champagne still in my hand, untouched. 18 years ago, when Nexlify was just a small startup in Seattle, I was behind its first contracts. I remember long nights in the office, the computer screen's glow on my tired face, drafting proposals for an AI platform that secured $1 million deal with a major retailer. I negotiated, refined every line of the contract, even used personal savings to contribute 30% of the capital during a company crisis that year. Nathan, then just a project manager, stood beside me, nodding, patting my shoulder, saying, "You're the brains, Michael. I'll handle the presentation." But when the deal closed, Nathan took the stage, flashed his perfect smile, and soaked up the leadership's praise while I sat in the audience, unmentioned. I thought it was just how companies worked. One person does, another shines. I recall a press conference later, when Nexlify was named Startup of the Year. I wrote the project report, but my name didn't appear in the press materials. Instead, Nathan was hailed as the visionary. I checked internal emails, found an old draft of the report, my signature clear at the bottom. But the official version? My name was replaced with Nathan's signature. I asked him about it once, in a meeting room at Nexlify Tower. "Minor oversight, Michael," he laughed, patting my shoulder. "You know I always give you credit." But that laugh, like his eyes tonight, didn't hide the truth. He didn't want me in the spotlight. He wanted me invisible. Years later, when Nexlify needed financial restructuring, I stepped up again. I signed a silent investment contract, using savings to keep the company afloat. That contract, with my signature Michael Bennett, investor, was once my pride. But last week, digging through my personal cloud, I found the latest contract update. My name was gone, replaced by a vague note. Per request, removed reference to silent investor. I emailed the company lawyer, but got only a vague reply. That was the board's decision. The board, meaning Nathan. I wasn't surprised, but it felt like a deeper cut than I expected. Then I heard a soft chime, drawing attention to the main table. Nathan and Lucas stood, arms around each other, smiles radiant like they were cut from a magazine. 15 years, Nathan began, his voice clear, confident. 15 years building Nexlify with incredible people. Applause erupted. He spoke of early days, struggles, and triumphs. He thanked his parents, Lucas for loyalty, Helen Parker for strategic vision, and the entire team, a generic, clean, unspecific nod. I sat upright, waiting, but the name Michael Bennett was never mentioned. Not a nod, not a glance. My signature still sits on the contract that saved the company. My savings kept Nexlify from bankruptcy. When they needed a reputation to sway investors, my mid-level director title was their backbone. But now, I was no longer part of their story. The applause rang out again. A few eyes glanced my way, fleetingly confused or pitying, but no one said a word. A server passed by, offering more champagne. I declined, standing to stretch my legs. I walked to the gift display table, where people left commemorative presents for Nexlify. I had prepared a gift, a small model of the Nexlify logo, cast in bronze, engraved with the phrase Nathan once said in our first meeting, "Building a future where no one is left behind." I had it custom made by a Seattle artisan, choosing blue, Nathan's so-called spirit of the company color. But when Lucas opened the gift, he held it up, laughing loudly. "Wow, this is from Helen. Amazing." Helen, standing a few steps away, hesitated, then gave an awkward smile. "Yeah, I guess so." I turned away, heading to the bar. An old colleague, probably Claire Thompson, brushed past. "So sweet of you to come, Michael," she said, her voice soft. "Despite everything." I paused. "Everything what?" She blinked, flustered. "Oh, nothing. Just work stress. You're like an outsider now, right? Good that you're still here." "Outsider." I smiled, but the smile didn't reach my eyes. "Cheers to that," I said, raising my water glass. She clinked hers against it, then vanished. I stepped into the hallway near the side exit, raising my glass, as if toasting a passing server, pretending I'd rejoin the crowd. But I didn't. I slipped into the shadows just outside the patio fireplace, where the party's light couldn't reach. Seattle's night breeze was cool, carrying a faint scent of rain. I exhaled slowly, listening to the muffled jazz from inside. Through the glass door, I saw Nathan. He wasn't far from the bar, not laughing, not mingling. He stood still, his eyes fixed in my direction, not the look of someone glad to see a colleague enjoying the party. It was the stillness of someone waiting for something very specific to happen. The glass was still in my hand, and in that moment, I knew for sure whatever was in it wasn't meant to celebrate. I returned to the banquet hall, moving lightly through the chatting crowd. Nathan had been pulled into a group of guests, but his eyes still flicked toward me, a hint of tension. I scanned the room. Lucas Hayes, Nathan's 32-year-old assistant, stood in a far corner, laughing loudly with a partner, his champagne glass resting on the table behind him, untouched, condensation beading on its rim. No one noticed me, they never did. With a quick motion, I feigned a slight stumble, set my glass down beside Lucas's, and swapped them in an instant. Lucas's glass was cold, with a faint citrus scent, normal. I picked it up, took a small sip. Bland, nothing off. I smiled, stepped back into the crowd, blending in as if nothing had happened. The jazz swelled, a voice calling for a toast. I stood at the room's edge, watching. Nathan was now near the main table, laughing, but his eyes still sought me out. I raised the safe glass, pretending to sip again, and nodded lightly at a passing colleague. 45 minutes passed. Nathan's laughter echoed from the main table, a bit too loud, as if masking something. I didn't look at him. I looked at Lucas. He was recounting a story about a recent business trip, his voice lively, hands gesturing. Then his face changed. He touched his chest, then his stomach blinking rapidly, sweat glistening on his forehead. He mumbled, his voice weak, stepping back half a step. The crowd around him froze, a few chuckles, then the room seemed to hold its breath. Lucas hunched over, one hand gripping a chair. Need the restroom, he whispered, then staggered off. Guests parted, someone asking if he'd eaten seafood. Probably the crab. A colleague, maybe Helen Parker, said, sipping her wine without blinking. But I knew better. I looked at Nathan. His face didn't change much, not enough for outsiders to notice, but I saw his smile stiffen, like a mask locked in place. His eyes flicked to the glass I'd never touched, left on a table near the exit. He stared at it longer than necessary. Then his gaze snapped back to me. I didn't blink. I didn't smile. I just looked at him, letting him see his mistake laid bare before him. In that moment, Nathan knew what I'd done. I quietly stepped into the hallway toward the restroom, not to check on Lucas, but because I needed space to breathe. Passing the coat rack near the back door, I overheard whispers. Two older women, in pastel dresses, talked like schoolgirls discussing a scandal. "Did you hear?" one said. "He's unstable. Done this kind of thing before." The other sighed. "Such a shame. You try to include people, but there's always one troublemaker." I didn't stop. I didn't need to ask who they meant. I slipped out through the staff exit, pulling out my phone. No messages, no calls, nothing from Nathan. I opened a new text, typed to myself, "Save the glass." Then I let the screen go dark, letting Seattle's silent night envelop me. When I returned to the banquet hall, the gala carried on as if nothing had happened. Lucas was back, pale but forcing a smile, sipping water in small gulps. Nathan stood beside him, touching his wrist lightly, his smile like it was molded from wax. I slipped into the crowd's edge, keeping my composure, but in my mind I was piecing it all together. The glass was gone, cleared by a server, as I'd expected, but I didn't need it anymore. Swapping the glass had given me the answer. Nathan didn't just want me invisible. He wanted me harmed, and I wouldn't let him win. I left the gala early, driving back to my rented hotel in Seattle's light rain. That night, as I shed my suit jacket, my phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. No name, just one line. I saw what happened. I have video. It's not his first time. Attached was a video file. I opened it, my hand trembling slightly, not from fear, but from a sharp instinct. The video loaded slowly, the screen flickering. Then the image appeared. The Cascades bar, dim light, Nathan in his familiar navy suit. His back was to the camera, but the angle of his face was unmistakable. He pulled a small vial from his pocket, poured it quickly into a champagne glass, then whispered something to the bartender. The server nodded, eyes darting around. Nathan gestured toward the banquet hall, where I'd been standing. The timestamp 8:42 p.m., the exact moment he handed me the glass. Another clip followed, Lucas laughing loudly, raising that champagne glass, downing it in a gleeful gulp. The final clip, Nathan speaking to a woman I didn't recognize. His voice low, he was supposed to be too dazed to ruin things. I paused the video, staring at the screen. I opened the text, typing quickly. "Who are you?" The reply came instantly. "Claire Thompson, meet me tomorrow morning, coffee shop near Nexlify Tower, 8 a.m. Claire Thompson, a name stirring faint memories. She was once Nexlify's marketing director, sharp and intelligent, but fired by Nathan for not fitting the company culture. I'd heard rumors she was pushed out for outshining Nathan at an event. Now I understood. Claire wasn't just a victim. She was the one holding the evidence. The next morning, I met Claire at a small coffee shop in South Lake Union, a few blocks from Nexlify Tower. Rain drizzled outside, the rich scent of roasted coffee blending with the damp air. Claire sat in a corner, wearing a gray coat, her short hair neatly trimmed. She slid a coffee cup toward me. No smile. "I know what he did to you," she said, her voice low. "And I've got more than just a video." She opened her laptop, showing me a series of internal emails. One from Nathan to the company lawyer, requesting to remove references to Michael Bennett from the silent investment contract I'd funded with 30% of my savings that year. Another forging my signature, transferring credit for a major AI project to Nathan. And a handwritten note from Nathan, accidentally left in the shared system. "Michael's too good. Keep him backstage, or he'll get in the way." I looked at Claire, keeping my voice steady. "How did you keep all this?" She shrugged. "When Nathan fired me, I knew he'd erase me like he's erasing you. I saved everything. Emails, documents, even recordings. 3 years ago, he said I tarnished the brand because I outshone him at a product launch. The next day, my name was scrubbed from all promotional materials." She paused, her eyes icy. "This is what he does, Michael. Silent wars, sharp knives, and people let him because he smiles when he cuts." I sipped the coffee, its bitterness sliding down my throat. "Will you testify?" Claire nodded. "I've already started recording." She sent me a compressed folder with all the evidence, video, emails, notes. I opened my phone, checked my personal cloud. The old investment contract was still there, my signature, Michael Bennett, silent investor Claire. But the latest update, approved by Nathan, had erased my name, leaving only a note. Claire request, removed reference. I found another email, Nathan to the board. "Michael's not suited for public roles. Keep him backstage." I looked out the window, rain glinting on the glass. "Thank you, Claire," I said, my voice low. She nodded, no more words needed. As I left the coffee shop, I felt something shift. "But he forgot one thing. Sometimes the person erased is the one holding all the records. I saved Claire's folder to my cloud, checked the video again. The image of Nathan pouring something into the glass played clear, undeniable. I didn't smile, I just exhaled, because when you know the truth, it's not just a weapon, it's light. I sat in the top floor meeting room of Nexlify Tower, light from the large windows hitting the glossy wooden table, reflecting the tense faces of the board members. Seattle's rain pattered outside, leaving faint streaks on the glass. The board meeting was called to review the gala incident, but I knew it was a pretext. Nathan sat at the head of the table, in an expensive gray suit, his confident smile not quite hiding the tension in his eyes. Lucas, still pale from the incident, sat beside him, quietly taking notes. Helen Parker, a board member who once respected me, looked down at her documents, avoiding my gaze. Other colleagues, the CFO, the COO, whispered to each other, their voices low. I sat at the table's end, back straight, hands clasped, waiting. The room's atmosphere was heavy, like a storm brewing. Nathan stood, tapping his fingers lightly on the table, drawing attention. I know today was meant for strategy discussions, he began, his voice high and taut, like a string pulled too tight. But I can't ignore what happened at the gala. The room fell silent, only the soft patter of rain on the glass. He looked around, pausing on me for a second, then continued. My assistant Lucas nearly collapsed. Something was wrong, and we traced it to a glass of champagne. He didn't say my name. He didn't need to. I gave a glass to someone, as a friendly gesture, a sign of trust. And that person, his voice cracked slightly, practiced enough to sound sincere, turned it into a weapon. Whispers spread like a breeze through the room. A director cleared his throat. Someone dropped a pen. Lucas bowed his head, hands gripping his documents, as if wanting to speak but holding back. All eyes turned to me, and I felt the weight of their collective silence, cold, sharp, like another glass offered, this time filled with humiliation. No one spoke up for me. Not Lucas, not Helen, not even the COO I used to have coffee with every morning. I held my posture, hands clasped tightly, eyes locked on Nathan. He hadn't rehearsed this part with Lucas. I could tell from Lucas's bowed head. Nathan went on, his tone softening, like a teacher explaining to a student. We don't want to make a big deal out of this, but we must protect the company culture, the values Nexlify was built on. Scattered applause followed, but it lacked enthusiasm. Lucas looked up, his eyes briefly confused, as if starting to doubt. Helen glanced at her phone, her brows furrowing, but she said nothing. The room began to stir again, like a derailed ship being pulled back on course. A director, perhaps trying to ease the tension, suggested returning to the main agenda. Maybe we should move on to next quarter's plans, he said, his voice hesitant. It was clumsy but effective, at least for the moment. I contacted Claire right after the meeting, sending her a short text. Are you ready? Her reply came quickly. I've been ready since he fired me. We met again at the coffee shop near Nexlify Tower, where the aroma of roasted coffee mingled with the damp air. Claire slid a USB drive toward me, containing all the evidence. The video of Nathan pouring something into the champagne glass, emails forging my signature, notes requesting the lawyer to remove my name from the investment contract, and a brief recording, Nathan's voice, in a closed meeting, saying Michael's too good. If we let him shine, we'll lose control. Claire looked at me, her eyes icy. You need to go public with this, Michael. Not here, not with the board, with the whole world. I reached out to a reputable Seattle tech newspaper, where I'd once worked with a trusted editor. I also emailed a few influential industry bloggers, who weren't afraid to expose the truth. The article I prepared was concise but sharp, titled, I Was Never a Threat. I Just Refused to Be Erased. Attached were the video, emails, documents, and a recording, all meticulously organized, not a word wasted, not a piece of evidence missing. I hit send, feeling not victory, but release, as if a long locked door had finally swung open. Within hours, the article spread like wildfire across dry grass. Tech forums, social media, and Nexlify's internal chat groups were flooded with it. The video of Nathan tampering with the champagne glass was shared thousands of times, each view a stab at the perfect image he'd built. Nexlify's shareholders sent emails demanding explanations. A major partner pulled out of an upcoming AI project, citing concerns about leadership ethics. Helen Parker, a board member, publicly resigned via a brief social media post, stating, "I cannot remain with a company whose values no longer align with mine." Each word, each reaction, was a crack in the wall Nathan had constructed. Nathan didn't stay silent. A day later, an anonymous account, though I knew his fingerprints, posted an old video on social media, captioned, "Unstable employee sabotages Nexlify's legacy." The 20-second clip, cut from a tense meeting years ago when I was frustrated over a delayed project, showed me slamming my hand on the table, my face contorted. It was cleverly edited, stripped of context, making me look unhinged. Comments flooded in, "Why's he always the victim?" Or "This guy needs therapy." I got an email from an old colleague. "Michael, you okay? Saw the video, worried about you." I didn't reply immediately. Instead, I opened my personal cloud, retrieved the original meeting video, complete with audio and context, where I objected to Nathan slashing the tech team's budget. I sent it to the newspaper, along with metadata, proving Nathan's video was manipulated. Hours later, a new article appeared. Nexlify CEO accused of spreading fake video to smear employee. This time Nathan had no escape. I sat in my small apartment, watching Seattle's rain streak down the window. My phone buzzed constantly. Texts from colleagues, reporters, even a former shareholder. But I didn't feel triumphant. I felt relieved, as if a boulder pressing on my chest had finally been lifted. Lucas Hayes, Nathan's assistant, sent me a brief text. "I need to talk." I met him at a small bar near Lake Union. Lucas looked haggard, his usual confidence gone. "I didn't know he did that with the glass," he said, his voice low. "But after the gala, I checked emails. He once asked me to remove your name from a project report. I thought it was just procedure." He bowed his head, as if ashamed. I said nothing, just nodded. Lucas wasn't the enemy, just someone caught in Nathan's game. The fallout came faster than I expected. The board launched an internal investigation, requiring Nathan to take a leave to cooperate. A major sponsor pulled an advertising contract, and Nexlify's stock dipped slightly on the exchange. Nathan locked his social media accounts, stopped showing up at the office. I heard he was seen sitting alone in his car, eyes vacant, but I felt no pity, not after everything he'd done. Just weeks after my article went viral, shaking Nexlify and toppling Nathan Reynolds' perfect facade, I left the company. Horizon Network, the nonprofit I founded, was born to support tech industry employees, sidelined, people like me, like Claire Thompson, erased from their own stories. Today, Horizon Network's launch event isn't about grandeur, but about starting something new. And as I look at the tables adorned with irises, I know I'm no longer invisible. Rainier Community Hub isn't as glamorous as the Cascade Hotel, but it's ours. Simple white walls, wooden chairs arranged in a wide circle, and natural light make the space warm, intimate. On each table, I place documents, new notebooks, and something I prepared late into the night. Paper napkins folded into irises. Guests arrived gradually, mostly women and middle-aged people, a few younger, all carrying the posture of those interrupted, talked over, overlooked. Some came alone, clutching purses like armor. Others entered with wary eyes, but as I greeted them by name, one by one, I saw their shoulders relax. No one was forgotten here. When the room filled, I stepped onto a small platform at the front. No microphone. I wanted my voice to reach them, unfiltered. "Thank you all for coming," I said, my voice clear, steady. This room was built by people who know what it feels like to vanish and choose not to. I paused, meeting their eyes. Some blinked back tears. Others nodded, as if I'd voiced something they'd long kept silent. "This isn't a speech," I continued. "It's a beginning." Gentle applause spread, not loud, but sincere. Then, as if the universe were playing a trick, a delivery worker walked in. A bouquet of purple irises, no card, just a white envelope. I opened it, recognizing Claire Thompson's elegant, careful handwriting. "You stood tall when the world pushed you. You chose to move forward." No signature, but I didn't need one. I set the envelope on the platform, not reading it aloud. After a break, a guest asked, so I read it, then tossed it in the trash. Endings don't always need forgiveness. Sometimes, they just mean the door no longer swings both ways. I sat alone in Rainier Community Hub, Seattle's afternoon sun streaming through high windows, casting faint golden streaks on the wooden floor. The Horizon Network launch event had ended, chairs stacked, iris-folded napkins packed away, the guests' chatter now just an echo. But as I prepared to leave, a figure appeared at the main door. Nathan walked in, no longer in his navy suit or practiced smile. He wore a plain gray coat, hair disheveled, face weary, like someone who'd weathered a storm. I stood, not surprised, but not entirely ready. He stopped a few steps away, hands in pockets, eyes scanning the room before settling on me. "You did good, Michael," he said, his voice low, stripped of its usual polish. "This place, it's something." I didn't respond immediately, just looked at him, letting the silence between us speak. He cleared his throat, stepping closer. "I should have listened to you when I had the chance." He trailed off, as if words no longer obeyed him. "I was wrong. The truth needs silence to bloom," I said, my voice even, "but it needs light to grow." Nathan blinked, as if my words were a small cut. He nodded, not arguing, not justifying. "I get it," he whispered, then turned and walked out. I didn't call him back. I didn't forgive, but I didn't hold a grudge either. I just let him go, as I'd let Nexlify go. I stood, locked the center's door, and stepped outside. Seattle's sunset bathed everything in a soft glow, like a promise of a new day. I wasn't waiting anymore. I just was, and for the first time, that was enough. The story of Michael Bennett in My Boss slipped something into my glass. I switched it with his assistants. He regrets it, reflects real issues in today's U.S. workplace, especially the cutthroat competition, power manipulation, and struggle to affirm personal value. Michael, a mid-level director at Nexlify, was deliberately sidelined by his boss, Nathan Reynolds, who erased his achievements and even plotted harm through a tampered glass at the gala. These details mirror realities in many U.S. tech companies, where office politics and rivalry can overshadow contributions like Michael's, who saved the company with $1 million contract and personal capital. Michael's glass swap, his persistence in gathering evidence from Claire Thompson and exposing the truth through a viral article show the power of clarity and resilience against injustice. The Horizon Network event at Rainier Community Hub, with its iris symbol, underscores rebirth and unity for the overlooked, reflecting America's growing need for communities supporting mistreated workers, especially in tech, where hustle culture often masks inequity. In real life in the U.S., especially in competitive workplaces, you must learn to protect your story and value, as Michael did by not letting Nathan erase him. Keep evidence of your contributions, emails, documents, notes, like Michael saved his investment contract. When facing manipulation, don't react impulsively. Be patient, gather information, and find trustworthy allies like Claire. Finally, if your environment doesn't recognize you, build your own space, like Horizon Network, where you can redefine yourself and support others. The truth, like the iris in the story, takes time to bloom, but it will always find light if you persist. Subscribe to follow more stories of resilience and justice, like Michael Bennett's journey. Thank you for joining us, and see you in the next video at Horizon Network.